Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis, here with Angelcake Drew to talk about this, crazy, amazing episode of the Traitors USA Season 3, Episode 6, A Dysfunctional Family. Drew, are you as hyped as I am about this one?
I am baffled from this episode. I feel like I don't think we've had some crazy seasons so far of like international seasons of like Traitors. This one by far I think is one of the messiest on all sides, on all levels, mainly from the Traitors via themselves, and then just everybody else. It's crazy. It's wild.
I mean, okay, I was watching this episode and I was really on the edge of my seat. Like my stomach was in knots. I was sweating. And then I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God, we're only 17 minutes in. Like I have like 43 more minutes of me stressed out here. Now, I know some people are like, oh, Boston Rob is coming in here and he's like ruining the show and the dynamic of these Traitors. I actually, after this episode, I do not think so at all. I felt that his performance at the roundtable was pretty impressive. And I think that dynamically, I love how disastrously messy and dysfunctional this family is. I'm loving this combo at this point. I think it's perfect almost.
It's a perfect storm for Boston Rob, it feels like, because you have Danielle and Carolyn going after each other now. And then you have also the randomness of some of the Traitors and the dead ends that they want to go on and the tangents they want to go on about people that aren't even a factor in this. And then Boston Rob, you know what I will say? I want to give Boston Rob like some credit here, because in like Survivor and even this edit on this show, it feels like there's points where he tries to force what he wants to have, or he comes off forceful in like it's my way or the highway type of vibe. But I feel like this episode in particular just shows how good of a social game he has, because there are people like, it should be red alarms, big target on his back. We did not want this guy in this game, and he just shows up on our doorstep one day in a cage, and we just welcome him back. It should be red alarms. This guy is probably a traitor, yet he has been able to get some form of good graces with these players that you can tell, like, from how they were talking about Wes in this episode compared to like Boston Rob, and how people kind of trust him even though they're suspicious of him, yet he doesn't get voted out. It's really really it just proves how much he probably talks with these people. He comes off like he cares about these people, and I have to give him his credit for this, because in the edit I feel like it comes off one way, but in the house it has to come off a completely different way.
And I think it's really indicative with how Wes interacted with the women specifically, and how the women seem to be, well, Chrishell, when I say Chrishell specifically, was not into Wes's tactics and was very much into Boston Rob's tactics. So however they were speaking to Chrishell is probably indicative of how they were speaking to everybody else in the game. And Rob is just better, from what we've seen, at being able to finesse these relationships that he has with people in order to build this influence that Wes just didn't have at all. He didn't have any influence over the people in this game.
No, not at all. And I think there is a point where Wes has played so much of the challenge that he leans too much into what he does on the challenge and what works on the challenge, but he has a reputation there. He has support there from some people. Whereas you come onto this season and that tactic kind of doesn't work. You know, you go on to do the House of Villains, and that works because everybody kind of knows how TV. You're coming onto this season. There's so many different personalities from all different types of shows. A lot of them aren't even competition shows. So it does come off. It's not sometimes what you say, it's how you say it. And I thought Wes buried himself I thought he could have gotten himself off. He could have gotten himself out of that situation if he didn't say like a single phrase. If he would have just left it off, he would have probably walked this time, and people would have been like, fine, we'll get him next time. If this doesn't work out, we'll get him next time. But it was that I think it was that one little phrase at the end. I don't know how far you want to talk about it, but I just don't want to get too deep into it. But I was when he said it, I was like, oh, there it is. It's
Yeah.
over. He's getting voted out. It was closer than I thought it was. The vote was closer, but I was like, nope, he just did himself in.
Rachel here says it's the best US season. What do you think?
I don't know. I really liked USA season 2. This one definitely is on a whole nother level, though. Like, I'm glad that this season happened because I feel like it's so messy. It's so messy.
Well, with watching this season, like I'm someone that loves these competitive reality games. I play a lot of orgs, as you know, live reality games and stuff. I would love to be on a competitive reality show. And seeing how this season is going, I'm almost scared to play the Traitors. I don't know if I could play the next iteration of the Traitors because people are going to learn from this season and it's going to be that much harder to win the game. And so like I'm actually terrified to like actually get cast on it.
I would love to see like a US season with no celebrities, because sometimes I feel like the
Are you saying I'm not a celebrity?
Well, I'm just saying, like, the celebrity aspect, I feel like hinders some people's play styles. Like, instantly when Tony came into the game or people saw him, it's like, we got to get him out. Whether he is a traitor or not, we have to get him out. And it feels like people early on vote on reputation or what their resumes say rather than the actual gameplay themselves. But it's also really difficult when you're going off of nothing into the first banishment or the first murder and stuff.
Bloody Money wants to know if you're a fan of Tom Sandoval.
They would be, so they got rid of Wes, which, I mean, he wasn't doing himself any favors, but at this point, it's either vote out. They would be better voting out Tom Sandoval than getting a traitor out at this point. The traitors could cannibalize themselves. They could out themselves by yelling at each other randomly or just in front of everybody at the round table, as we can see. And then it's like, gosh, like Tom Sandoval's over here talking about Dolores. Like, what the heck? And then Dolores wants to talk about Tom Sandoval. It's like, nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to talk about either one of you two. Nobody cares.
So you know what though? One thing I do think though, because I remember when I played Mafia for the first time, I was awfully terrible at Mafia. It's a little bit more convoluted than the Traitors is, and I kind of thought that I just will vote who I actually think is in the Mafia. I didn't realize that it kind of has to be a group think, and you're trying to get everybody. Like you're supposed to just vote with the way you think it's going. That's kind of how it seemed to have gone, and so I would have like these outlier votes on the people that actually were Mafia, and like, but like I didn't have any influence to bring people in on my vote. I just thought that like I was just voting for who I actually thought was Mafia. So I can maybe understand with Tom here a little bit is that he's just trying to vote who he thinks is the Mafia or the traitor and not really necessarily having to gain influence and get people to kind of believe him. You know, do you understand what I mean?
I mean, and I don't want to come off like, because if I somehow find myself on a Traitors or like think of myself, I'd be probably the same way. I'd be sweating so much. I'd be eating standing up, hovering over a table. That was so weird. That was weird. I was like,
I wrote it down.
Does he have to leave? Does he have to go somewhere? Like, what is happening? Like,
no time for sitting down.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck? But I will say that, like, I'm sure, like, I would be sitting there going over everybody, no stone left unturned. Who could be it? You got to make sure, like, it's not the person that you least expect. But it's so off. It's so off-putting how just all of his theories and thoughts and eating, it just throws me off so much. And then I like when, I mean, I'm not a fan of Derek at all, but like Derek and Wes come in. And like Tom is standing there sitting, and then Derek just goes, "Can you leave the room?
Yeah, get out of here."
And then Tom just like leaves the room and doesn't know what to do because it's just like, okay, just go do something. Make friends.
I did feel like slightly bad. He was like, you know, the younger brother that's not allowed to hang around with the older brothers while they're like having like a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Like, okay, Lovable Nikki. I'm not a Sandoval
up.
fan. I was deep in Vanderpump like lore. I watched everything, read everything. I'm not a fan of that man, but I can understand teeny little bit of his gameplay style and just being like not really know what's going on and just
Yeah.
like trying to say a name just to say something, you know?
Yeah.
Like he wants to be involved.
He does. He so badly wants to like be the guy to like find it or be a part of like uncovering this. He wants to be he wants to be that so badly, but it's like, no, don't just stop, please. They should vote him out at this point.
Matt has a good point here saying the problem is that the traitor selection isn't randomized. You could banish a housewife and have a 1% chance of getting a traitor, or banish a competition challenge show legend and have a 50% chance. Absolutely. Now, what do you think? Do you think that the producers should still pick and choose who they want to be traitors for to kind of set up the game and the show that they're producing? Or do you think it would be better if it was actually randomized so people couldn't start gaming the selection process and gaming, intentions of Alan and other producers?
I don't know. I kind of like the idea that it is it is a reality competition show, but you kind of have to roll with the punches, especially if it's a reality show. And that's what the Peacock wants to do. They want to pick people that want to play, that want to be traitors, and want to play the game hard and fast, because if they play too hard, that makes for good TV. If they're too subdued or they're too nervous to play the traitors, I think that kind of throws it off. Like if Tom was the traitor, I think that would be hella fun, but it would also be like he would out himself super quickly, and then we're scrambling to make another traitor or something to that effect.
But then it would get taken into the group of traitors' hands, and like you could start seeing some strategy there. But I do think that the maybe next season it could benefit to have it be random, because to know for sure that it's going to be gamers in the turret.
I also, there was, I think Kirk in my Discord like months ago talked about how he would like to see maybe there would be a modification to some of the faithfuls, in the sense that maybe like certain faithfuls could have like certain once in a while type of skills that they could use or something. And I don't know if there's like there was a big game during lockdown called Among Us, and after a while they started adding in other jobs to the crew members, so that way it wasn't going to get stale, that they're just sitting there waiting to get murdered by the two suspect people. And so I thought that elevated the game in a bit. I don't know what you could add to the traitors, but I think it would be interesting if like they could somehow not just wait to be banishment or wait to need a shield or something. So I don't know how they would do that. They probably would never do that, but I thought it would be an interesting move, as I also view this as kind of like an Among Us type of vibe in game.
100%. Well, it's kind of like how Mafia has different roles for different people. It's not just the town versus the Mafia. And then, Chris says she would never mention, anticipated an Among Us mention from you, Drew.
I'm so old. No, I watched Disguised Toast and Offline TV, and that's what they did basically for those 2 years. So I know.
Did you ever play?
I played once with like friends in a very limited like lobby. It was fine, but I was like, I kind of like watching other people play it.
Well, I liked playing it. Like I played it with RJP people. And
that's got fun.
It was super fun, but they didn't have to convert it to from like a Mac to, it was only available on like IBM compatible, whatever. And so I had to play on my phone. And so like running after people, like trying to like move my finger around it, like through these different rooms of this whatever laboratory. It was just like, it wasn't fun not being able to just like click around properly. So I don't know if they changed that and there's like a Mac version compatible. So I never played again since then. But I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. If we could do something with like challenge related people, that would be pretty interesting.
Ooh, like make it like a Among Us Brett Steele kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe that would be pretty fun.
Like the Among Us format, but Brant Steele with like you can put in the characters
Okay,
that you want.
we're getting too we're going off.
That would be great though. But the last thing I wanted to kind of mention, Joe, similar to Among Us, is have you heard of Blood on the Clock Tower?
Yes.
So like that is kind of similar to this, kind of similar to Mafia. And I'm wondering if that maybe would be the direction that either the Traitors goes in, or if a new show kind of evolves out of that, because there's different roles and there's different things that happen, and there is an Alan role that would be, you know, the game master that's able to kind of guide these people on these journeys. And so maybe that's the next step, the next iteration, because the Traitors, it is not getting stale, but people are going to be able to game all these things pretty quickly, I would say, unless you get really, 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 really bad faithfuls, right?
Yeah, and as faithfuls, like, or as the Traitors, where they're like, you can't say your role, like you can't say that you're a traitor, or you can't out your other traitors. Like, they could do the same thing with the roles. Like, you can't say that you're a seer or something. Like, if you played werewolf or something, like you can't say that you're a seer or that you're this person or that person. And if you do, then I think you gotta get kicked off or something. Like, I feel like if everybody knows that they can't say what they are, then it kind of can still add to the mystique of everything. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying that it isn't that it's getting stale, because this season is like, people are really enjoying it. This episode was very messy and it's going to be fun to talk about it. But at the same time, it would be nice to have like a test of like, what if we added 2 roles to the faithfuls to help them out, because it is one of those things where you're just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping for a lot of episodes.
Pretty much, unless some of these people that are kind of going blindly, it seems, like with Rob, maybe they know that he is a traitor and they just want to keep him close, because he'll keep them to the end, and then they can maybe be like, I don't believe you, I'll take you out, and at the final, you know, banishment or circle of fire.
I don't know. We'll see. I do have some thoughts when we get into the episode about, and especially towards the end of the episode, with that final conversation that we saw with the Traitors and Derek and Brittany and stuff.
Oh my god, both were great. Oh my gosh. This last thing, then, before we get into the episode, Rachel says Tony said that the faithfuls who correctly vote out traitors could get a shield. Like that. I like that idea. It really incentivizes
Yeah.
Getting out the traitors instead of skating by. Yeah, there definitely needs to be, you know, punishment for things, or I know that's going to be getting into the mole a little bit, or some more incentives to do certain things. I think the prize money needs to be higher, because, you know, Trishelle is selling $40 million houses and making like a $2 million, you know, check. I don't know, $30,000 to go to the pot where she could possibly split it with like 10 people.
Yeah.
It's not really that big of an incentive. The shield would be more of an incentive, because like at this point I think they just want bragging rights to win the game, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
$2,000, it's a lot of money to me, but to these guys it's not really that much money.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking I mean, this goes along the lines of what I was saying in the review and recap for All Stars 5, where it's like you get $300,000 to split, and it's like, okay, so $150K, that's really low, TJ. Okay, cool.
And then the 30% taxes that you guys get chopped off of it.
Yeah,
like that's not fun. It's not fun. All right, so I got nervous right from the beginning, because I am an OG Rob girly, had a crush on him on his season of The Survivor, season 4, Marquesas. So when they're starting out with Rob's sound bites and clips of Rob and the stuff that he was doing up until, I'm like, oh my god, he's going to be the focus of this episode. Is everybody going to be right and say that he's going to be going home next? I was like, I just didn't feel like he was going home next, but everybody was like, he's gone, he's done, he's cooked. I was like, oh my god, I started to get nervous. And so, but then I was like, you know what? He can't be gone this episode, because this would be too heavy-handed. So what were your thoughts with how this episode started? Were you thinking that Rob was a goner, or was that this was just a big red herring?
I had thought and I kind of had hoped that it would come down to Rob, like how many times can they say maybe Rob put the blame on Bob the drag queen, and what if it would be great if you're a traitor to get out another traitor and do all this other stuff? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. You got it. Like you're saying all the right stuff, and so many people were saying all the right stuff. But yes, there's always like that deception or that little voice in the back being like, no, it would be too easy. It would be too easy if it happened this time around. The vote got close enough to where I was like, maybe they're gonna do it, but we saw what happens.
So after they showed a bunch of Rob, then they started showing some Danielle. So I'm like, okay, so there's a chance that it could be not Rob, it could be Danielle, which I'm also not that happy about. But just the fact that there's just a little bit more variance, like it wasn't for sure going to be Rob going out. I was feeling better about this episode, but my heart was racing from the get go. So we are back in the turret, and we get Carolyn being like, I heard my name from you. I'm like, what's happening here? Like, already we're just like into Carolyn being frustrated with Danielle and not holding her tongue at all.
Yeah, I just don't understand this move from Danielle. Instead of trying to pull in Carolyn, who she feels is chaotic, she decides to try to get her banished or whatever. And it's like, you don't think that's going to get back to her? Like, you don't want the chaos, but you're going to make chaos when she finds out. And that's exactly what I mean. It like crap hit the fan way more than I thought it was going to. But yeah, it just didn't make sense. It's like, why don't you bring in Carolyn a little bit closer, try to use it to get Rob out, and then you could use to get another traitor with Carolyn, and then be able to maybe work with that other person instead of bypassing Rob to then try to get out Carolyn to then get somebody. That was just so convoluted. Danielle is playing a very messy game, in my opinion.
It's very messy. Dreadful's not sure if Carolyn played this right, but just love that she can't help it. Yeah, I'm not sure if she played it right. I don't understand how Danielle thought that it was better to get out Carolyn with somebody else than it would be just to figure out a way to work with Carolyn or still work with that other person to get out Rob. Like, why does that person need to be a traitor in order to get Rob out of the game? Like, she could still use her. If she had more soon teamed up with Derek, and Derek has these theories, and maybe they start like really like talking about these theories, whatever, and they work on something, and she starts building that army. Maybe she even brings in Carolyn. Well, she probably wouldn't bring in Carolyn because she thinks Carolyn's working with Rob more than her. But like, I just feel like she could have gotten the outcome that she wanted without having to get out Carolyn to do it. I just don't understand why she was thinking that was the best route.
And the idea of like, oh, we'll bring in somebody else to be a traitor. If you get out Carolyn, then you have to agree with Rob on who you bring in. And who, don't you think like that person might be indebted to both of you or be inclined to want to work with Rob? And then how do you trust just a random other person unless you have somebody in mind? But you have to expect that Rob might have pushback because he wants to bring somebody else in that he would maybe be closer to him on his. I just don't understand the role. I don't.
Who do you think she would have brought in? Would be the best for her to have brought in?
I don't know. Maybe she would have wanted to bring in a Derek because he is a little bit more cunning, or at least she thinks he's a lot more cunning and a lot smarter. So maybe she would think like, try to bring in another big brother player. They're automatically on my side. Maybe she's thinking Rob and him got close in the cages. And then Rob, maybe she could push to Rob that if we bring in Derek, he was also in the cages. And if we turn on him and he gets voted out, people will be like, oh, that's the guy. That was the traitor in the cage. And then Rob's off. I don't know. It's one of those things I just don't understand.
Well, do you know what? I think that if Danielle, say she does get out Carolyn, she brings in Derek, I think that would be helpful for Rob because Rob would have more information. Like whether or not they were teaming up to go against Rob or not, he would still have more information about what Derek was doing. And Derek is somebody that is dangerous to his game.
Yeah.
And so I think it just would give him a little bit more ammunition and a little bit more of the pieces of the puzzle to protect himself. Like knowing that he was a traitor, I think would have been worse for Danielle in the end. I think that having Derek be on the outside protecting her, I think would have been better. But it's interesting. She doesn't see the game how I thought she would see the game. And to me, it seems like she's not watched enough episodes because I feel like she's falling into some basic traps.
Kayla also says that maybe she was thinking of Dylan, of bringing him in.
But Dylan is, I think, at that point, was more on Rob's side than hers, I would think.
Under the thumb
of Boston Rob. I feel like we've talked about being under Boston Rob's thumb. Oh, did we talk about Deal or No Deal Island or at one point? No.
I have no idea.
I feel like I've seen you say that before.
I got that from the Goofy movie.
But I feel like I've seen you do it before. I don't think I've seen the Goofy movie. Danielle says that she's sorry, that she'll make it right. What do you think Danielle could do to make this right?
Nothing. The damage is done, in my opinion.
Yeah, like, maybe like talk to Carolyn like a normal human being, like, or a person, a trader that you're working with. I think the biggest issue is that Danielle never saw Carolyn as an ally, never saw her as someone that she wanted to work with, never saw that someone that she felt, they could conspire with, or together. And so I think that that's what the issue is with them. And I agree. I don't think that she can actually make it right because she doesn't respect her as a gamer or a player.
No, not at all.
Unfortunately. So Danielle says not Dolores or Brittany. Was it Brittany? Was the second person? I didn't write it down. Was it Brittany?
Which
Dolores
one?
Or
I don't think it was.
It says not Dolores, and I put or, and like I guess I was just writing. I just didn't write the other person.
I don't remember. I'll be honest. I don't remember who comes in when. I think it was Gabby. No,
Dolores or Gabby.
No, it was Chriselle, right?
No.
I'm just naming
Rob
everybody.
wanted Wes, and then they were talking about Wes, Bob, H, or Ivar. But Danielle said not Dolores, obviously because she was protecting her. Was it or Derek?
It could have been Derek.
I can't remember. Oh my God. I guess I thought I would remember. Chat, help me. Help me. Don't remember. And so I loved how after the end of this tour, Boston Rob was saying to Carolyn, "Can I give you a hug?" Like, she does need a hug. I think she really wants to feel like she is part of a family here. She really wanted to be connected, be working with these traders together. And I think that that's the idea that she had when she was wanting to be a trader. I didn't think she thought that she was going to feel like an outsider even with her traders family. And so the fact that Rob even saw that she's like, she needs to be scooped up and hugged. I think that's part of him being a good game player and
100%
good socially.
Yeah.
Because I think this is going to be helpful later down the road. So Carolyn is writing down the name of this person. How did she get so much ink on her hands?
It made those fountain pens. They come out like fountains, I guess.
Oh my God, Chris. Good point. How the F are Sam and Ivar still there? I'm not sure. Not sure. They need to go in my book. Did you notice though so I guess we'll keep jump ahead a little bit, but when we find out who is murdered, their envelope had all of her inky fingerprints all over it.
Yeah.
I was like, hilarious. Why would they just give her a new piece of paper? Like,
no, it's one and done. And it's like they could have easily just wrote Bob's name and then gave it to him on a whole different piece of paper. It doesn't have to be the one specifically. It's not like he's going to go back and be like, hey, the handwriting was this or something.
Exactly. So. Maybe it's to give them a hint. You're like, ooh, I know that handwriting, or I don't know, just have that moment. All right, so at breakfast, first in is Dolores, Sierra, and I think Sierra was Dolores or Sierra, not the two people.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Sierra because she was just, and Carolyn were the first in. Sierra doesn't fully believe Danielle. And I was like, Interesting.
Mhm.
Because at one point, a lot of people were not really believing Danielle. And even at the end of the previous episode, when she was doing all that shenanigans with the picture frames and the crying, people, even Dolores was like, why are you crying?
Yeah, it's weird.
So I'm wondering if they're not showing more of that
Mhm.
because it's obvious that people don't believe her right now, or if they just kind of brush that under the rug.
I could see that. I could see her being like continuing to do it, and it just
Except
doesn't
for
come off.
Robin. I watched one of Robin's exit interviews today, and she fully believed Danielle, thinking that she was just like a really emotional person, and this is how she deals with this stress, and this is just who she is. And I'm like, I guess if you don't know somebody,
Yeah.
then you can get by with them doing this terrible acting job. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if she'd be fooling me.
I mean, if you know exactly, like, if you know her from her past season of Big Brother, like, she does not care.
No. Next in is Gabby, Brittany, and Derek.
Mhm.
Sarah and Derek are talking. They're speculating about Rob. Okay, so do
Mhm.
you think that Rob should have maybe gotten rid of Derek in the last? Like, do you think he has any sort of inkling at this point that Derek is a big problem for him? Um, like, I was hoping that he would just get rid of Derek that last screw Bob H. Like, let's get rid of Derek.
I think the main thing that's holding Rob back from either murdering either Wes or Derek was the whole cage thing. Because if people really do suspect at least one traitor was in that cage, I think he wanted to keep both of them in there, even if it's like detrimental to his game, if they're conspiring against him. And I think the difference now is like Derek was so we'll get to it, but Derek was so emphatic this episode that it's going to be hard to like do that unless they do it unless he's able to play it off and be like, well, they're clearly trying to like make me look like I'm the bad guy,
It's like
kind of
it's
vibe.
obvious.
Yeah.
Well, like he can point the finger. It's obvious. Well, Derek would be gone, but he did also leave that that note with Dylan. So I'm wondering if that's gonna play out into something else.
Yeah.
So at the end, during the breakfast, Derek does say, if Rob walks in, we are on to him, which is true. Like she should be banished if he's this traitor hunter. But he's had some shields though, hasn't he? So I don't know why that hasn't come into play. He didn't
Yeah,
have a
there was
shield the
somebody else
last
that
time.
also said too. I think it was Sam. Sam also said that if Rob walks in, I'm gonna be very suspicious of him.
Yeah, that was at the round table the last episode, and then Derek's now saying this at the breakfast table.
Hmm.
I mean, it is pretty sus, but
It's suspect, but I also think that there is a world where if there was other traders, they would want to keep Rob in there, especially if there's so much suspicion on him. I could see the traders being like, "Oh, just keep him
100%.
in. Keep him in. If people are going to vote him out eventually." And even Rob says that at the roundtable. I like how we just keep jumping back and forth.
It's
But
totally fine because it's corroborating all the things that we're saying, so it's
yeah.
perfectly fine. We'll go into detail, obviously, in
I'm
a
not
bit.
saying it's right, but there is a way where I can see it being like all mirrors and stuff. But if I'm in the house and I'm like, dude, we didn't shake this man's hand. Exactly. We didn't shake this man's hand. And now he comes back into the game. They're not going to just bring in a normal dude in the game if we didn't already dislike him or didn't want him here. Like, if you didn't want him here in the first day, why are we still keeping him here? I mean, everybody talked about how dangerous he was. Boot him out. But nobody wants to do it. Everybody's like, no, no, thank you. Not
I
now.
I
Totally
would
forgot
keep
about
him
him.
too. I don't
Yeah.
know. I would be shimmered by him, absolutely. Next in is Chriselle, Sam, Tom, Rob, and Dylan. Um, who said please? Oh, it was Dolores. Was like, please don't be Danielle.
Yeah, yeah.
She's feeling guilty. She doesn't want to have survivor's guilt here. That like she gets the shield that Danielle like painfully gave to her, and then she dies.
Yeah.
She ain't dying, Dolores. She's a traitor. So next in is Danielle, Wes, and Ivar, meaning that Bob Harper has been murdered. I have to say that Bob Harper's outfit, it was like that plaid like jacket with the kilt. Like he went shopping before he came to this show, and I thought that was a really awesome outfit. He was probably like, "Damn it, I don't get another outfit to wear on this show," but it looks good.
It's unfortunate because he was actually playing the game. He was somebody that was kind of liking throughout the season, and then you still have boring people in the game who don't do anything, aren't on camera. And it's just weird, in my opinion. So it is what it is.
Yes, Ingrid, I did remember that it was Sierra was the other person. And yes, you're right, because they both got the shield at the end of that challenge with the frames. Thank you, though, for reminding me. Bob hates the traitors. I would hate the traitors, too. That's the one thing that I wouldn't want to be faithful, is the fact that I would hate to be murdered. I would hate that so much. You just like, there's no way that you can stop it. Like maybe they can have, maybe this could be an element that they can bring into the game, is there's like hidden shields that people can get. So maybe like sometimes you wouldn't know that someone has a shield, which would be kind of fun, because then if someone got murdered, but they didn't get murdered, it's like, I had a shield. That could also allow them to detect some things and be like, ooh, you know what I mean? So like, there might add a little bit of help and strength for the faithfuls, and then it would give some more information to them as well. So
yeah, I'm with Thomas. I would rather be banished.
Yeah, I would want to be banned. I want to fight for my life if I'm going to go out that way.
Yeah.
So I'd also really only want to get to the end, because like, that's what I'd want to do. All right. So Danielle hates that they murdered Bob H. But she let Rob have his way. I don't understand why they keep on letting him have his way if they're going to complain about it.
Yeah, I don't get it. But Rob is being Rob, and everybody's letting Rob just be Rob. That's how I describe this season. Rob is Rob.
But at the same time, though, like as soon as Danielle was like, no, not Brittany, she like nobody else was allowed to push for Brittany. And same with Jeremy, she got her way with Jeremy as well, even though people didn't think that. So it's just interesting that she doesn't want things that Rob wants, but like Rob also gives her things that she wants. So she's playing more like Rob than I think she realizes.
Yeah.
Poor Bob Harper's picture that Alan just throws and it smashes into like pieces. He's so violent with these picture frames. It's sad.
It's his house. It's his way. It's his show.
It's his show. And they have a mission to prepare for, blowing things up to all proportions. Gabby doesn't think that Tom should be nervous, because Tom is so nervous, talking about how he's just packing and nervous. Gabby just thinks that he has bad theories, bad reads, like doesn't take him seriously at all, which is hilarious.
Tom has a thing where he points to himself and he feels like all eyes are on him, and it's like, dude, don't even worry about it. I love at the round table they were like, Tom, just shut up. Like you're gonna be here. Like you're the Traitor's best person. You're like, you have so many theories. Nobody believes you. Nobody cares. Like the Traitors are gonna keep you here forever. And I was like, yes, finally, thank you. But then Dolores wanted to talk to Tom, and then about Tom, and then vote Tom, and I was like, you're wasting everybody's time here. Thank you, Dolores. They don't believe whatever he's saying about you already, so don't give it more airtime. Like nobody cares.
I think though, so with Robin's exit interview, she was talking about how the way that the gamers play is a lot different than how, for instance, the housewives play, with the fact that the housewives, when they come onto camera, they're there to make interesting TV about nothing. And so she was just shocked that these entertaining people were being voted out, and she just didn't understand that. So I'm wondering if Dolores was just kind of getting her paycheck being like, okay, I haven't had like a moment here. I need to like
True.
give some housewife flavor at this round table. Like, so I think she just might have been just making a moment.
Yeah, I can see that.
Icona says Tom needs to go somewhere. His main character's syndrome needs to get off my screen. I'm actually enjoying how like unhinged, wild, like sweaty, eating. Like he's like, I've never seen anybody like him. I watch Vanderpump Rules, but it's edited version of him. We're seeing him in a little bit more candid light. It doesn't seem like the editors are a fan of him, and they're kind of poking fun of him, it seems. And I'm kind of enjoying seeing him kind of being thrown to the wolves in terms of, us, the audience.
I am trying to find a comment that was made. I can't even remember who said it, but if you did say it, let me know. But somebody in the chat earlier said that like Tom was like probably so protected from Bravo, and it's like now we're seeing like a real big side of him, and it's like, oh gosh, he makes me nervous just watching him. I can't watch him on my screen. It's so ridiculous.
Know if have you watched the earlier seasons of Vanderpump?
Yeah.
I remember when I first was watching it, I think it was season 1, where you'd have the voiceover and he'd be shaving his forehead. And I was like, like, who is this guy? Is that a normal thing? Do people, I've never seen anyone shave their forehead.
Yeah, me either.
Before.
No, I don't know.
And at that point, I knew that he was unhinged.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that Bravo had been protecting his image. He also had Lisa Vanderpump protecting his image, saying that he's a good guy, give him a chance, all this stuff. I definitely agree with you, Dreadful. I don't know how Ariana was with him for that long because he's not my cup of tea. Not my cup of anything, to be honest, at all. Okay, so Ivar and Dylan hug. I guess this is after the breakfast or before they're going to the mission. Tom tells Brittany his Dolores theory, and Brittany's just like, it's not her. It's not her. Like, Brittany doesn't want to have this conversation. She thinks it's a waste of her time. This was just another time where Tom is running around like a young kid that just like wants someone to listen to him, but he has stupid theories and nobody takes him seriously.
That's a great way to put it.
I wonder if that's like what is he an only child? Do we know?
I think so.
Because this is like only child vibes from what I know of only children.
Yeah, I can see that. No, me either.
I'm like, I only know how to hang out with people and be normal. Rob wants to get Wes banished at this point. Dolores and Ivar, he's telling this to. Now, I would think that Ivar might have like his spidey senses go up with the fact that Wes told Ivar about his theory. Ivar tells Rob about this theory, and now Rob wants to get Wes out. Like, if I was Ivar, I'd be like, I wonder if it has anything to do with me suggesting suggesting to Rob what Wes was thinking. Right?
I mean, if you are a person trying to put clues together and are playing a tactical game of trying to get traitors out, then I think you would naturally think of that. But some people just don't think like that. They just go, Wes isn't my cup of tea. Rob seems to listen to me, and I'll just do whatever. I don't know what Ivar does, and it's just whatever. Yeah, he just walks around. I mean, Rob hit it perfectly. He's like, everybody knows he's a faithful. Nobody cares or worries about him because he does nothing. He does nothing for us. Thank you.
Then we see Tom telling Derek and Wes about his Dolores plan and thoughts. And then, that's when I think they tell him to get out of there. Just kick him out of the conversation. So Derek tells Wes that he needs to put all their votes on Rob. Wes is a little bit hesitant here. Do you think Wes is fearful of Rob?
A little bit. It does come off that way. Like, he hates the retaliation, I think he said.
And he always says, like, if you're going to make a hit, make sure it lands.
Yeah. I think he's
Now,
just worried that it won't. And then if he doesn't have a shield, then it's extra worse off for him.
yeah, I mean, of course, we know that Derek has the right idea. His rationale makes sense. But what I think is interesting is that he doesn't realize that he doesn't have influence as well. Like he's got a few people that are on his side are willing to listen to him. I guess he thinks that he has Brittany. He thinks he has Danielle, Dylan, Wes, and hoping to pick up a few other numbers. But why does he not think that Rob has equal amount of people that would be willing to support him? Like, does he just think that because he's going to be saying these facts that people are just going to be like, oh, Derek, you're our savior now. Like, you've come to our aid. I just feel like, especially with him being kind of cagey with how he's sharing the information, being like, oh, like, you know, who I put my votes on, just vote with me. Like, he's not even being fully transparent, gating these numbers. I just didn't think he did it in a good way.
No, and it was clear when he thinks he has Brittany and he thinks he has like a close relationship with Brittany, but it's like, I don't understand, and I am jumping a little bit when they're going into the room and Brittany goes and asks him point blank, are you going after Boston Rob? I've heard you're going to go after him. And he just goes, well, no, I mean, everybody's talking about him. So like, dude, in 2 minutes, you will be in that room
Bringing
putting
it
out
up.
facts and figures. Like, why are you going to say, no, I'm not going to do that? Get her on board, tell her about your plan, and then let her marinate on it for the 2 minutes when you're like saying everything. Cause now she's going to be caught off guard. She's like, he just told me no. And what is happening? Like, now I'm going to go off on my own way and I'm going to go off on the people that I know and trust a little bit more. If you're all, it was just weird. It was a weird situation. It's like, you're coming at it so wrong, in my opinion. Like, just tell her, because 2 minutes later you're gonna be in the room just telling everybody to vote Boston Rob. So it was just weird. It was a weird thing. I didn't understand why he said that, or why he did that.
So I kind of hear it says Wes is like a shepherd. He likes to play with dummies and underdogs. However, his attitude is secretive, and his secretive ways always get him caught up. But we've only seen him played on his one season, though, right? Where he played as didn't tell anybody he was an undercover cop. He befriended Cody, who was his comp beast. He had Victoria, that was, you know, someone that he could easily influence, and then other people that were easily influenced in the game. So I guess those are the dummies.
Wes or Derek?
Oh, Wes. Sorry, I'm thinking Derek. That's why it wasn't making any sense to me. You did say Wes. Okay, I guess I can see, but is that what a shepherd is like?
I guess it's one of those things where it's like he likes to know where all the votes are at all times. He likes to push it in a certain way or no. I just think Wes likes to know. He knows that if he goes off too much in this game, it'll put suspicion on him. So I think he likes to check in, and him checking in so much on the votes when you should be getting to know people and like really trying to figure it out and come up with a case rather than just making sure the votes you're in the majority of the votes or something, I think is what really hurt him.
V says, in Derek's defense, I don't really see why it mattered if Derek was the one pushing Rob or not. It's not like we've seen Rob be close with Brittany before now. I'm assuming it's to avoid being murdered later.
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to be up there yelling at the round table for everybody to vote Boston Rob, like, what's the matter if you tell Brittany 2 minutes before or 5 minutes or however many minutes, and then she runs and goes tells Boston Rob that, hey, be ready, Derek's gonna say your name or something. It's like, I just didn't understand why he was like, no, I'm not doing it. Don't. And then it just, I just didn't understand it. If you trust Brittany or want to work with her, why are you lying at that point?
Well, especially if you want her to vote with you.
Yeah.
Carolyn and Brittany are having a conversation. Brittany says, I heard you say my name. Carolyn spits out her drink. And but she realizes it's Danielle again, even though they just made a pact that they weren't going to be coming for each other. They said that they were going to be a family and they're going to work together now. And this was in the past, but Carolyn is still seeing red from it, and she's like, "You got caught, Danielle. Got caught." So the mission, they all get there. There's a giant cloaked traitor. We see Lala. I love that they're having more options to see Lala in all these little traitors with Alan. For $30,000, they need to topple down the ultimate traitor by running around finding these 20 locked wooden crates. 3 of them have shields in it. The other 17 have questions. They get the question right. They get some gunpowder. They bring the gunpowder back to blow up this giant traitor. They have 30 minutes to do this. And yeah, there's 3 shields on the loose. So Derek wants a shield, of course.
Yeah.
Wes clocks that Rob likes to take immediate revenge and wants the shield himself. So I wish I could see why Wes has clocked Boston Rob this much. Like, how does he know that that's the immediate retaliation? He does bring up at the round table, hearing the Cage Boys, like the 3 new guys, one of them has to be a traitor, and then says that Rob immediately took action and took out Bob the drag queen. I wish we saw more of that rationale coming up, because it seemed out of the blue that he had all this information. Well, it's true.
And I mean, you could even, wasn't it Bob, not even Bob H, who said all that stuff about what if you're a traitor and you take out the other traitor in front of everybody and kind of show off who you are, and then isn't it the next day he's dead? So it's like, I don't know, that could have been brought up too.
Right? I would have liked it to have been. So they're going to be in 3 different groups.
Also, just realized that Rob has to be the only Rob/Bobby here. Like, he hates all Bobs. He hates Bob the drag queen, Bob H. He just wants to be the only Rob, Bobby.
The only Robert.
Yeah, the only Robert.
Do you know what, though? It might be subconscious, because I've seen, like, I feel like I've watched other shows where people just want to be the only one. They don't want to be confused by anybody.
Yeah.
I could see on a subconscious level him getting all the other Bobs out.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, Bob Harper, yeah, he was onto you, but he didn't really have that much influence. I think other people would have been a smarter call, but maybe it's because of his name. Robin, too! Oh, my Lanta. You're onto something for sure. I thought it was hilarious. Okay, so actually, one of the question was, on the first mission, how many left on the pontoon? 8. I thought these questions were very, very easy. I thought it was hilarious, though. They opened the box and Carolyn just takes the shield out. And Tom's pissed. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter, Tom. Like, you're not getting killed. You're not telling anybody who has a shield in your group. So you kind of all have safety to a certain extent.
I thought it was the only thing. So I thought that this was whatever. I'm glad it wasn't like a hefty mission to lift something very heavy and everything. Like, I thought it was fine. The most interesting thing was the shield stuff, but in the only thing that really threw me off is, why didn't they coordinate to where one traitor was in each group? Once I saw Carolyn and Danielle in the same group, I was like, okay, why? But it doesn't really matter as long as you know, like, if you have enough people in your group that you can kill, and just don't kill anybody in the green or whatever group, then it is whatever. But I just thought it was like weird that Carolyn and Danielle were together and I was like, there's 3 groups, there's 3 traitors, just everybody spread out. Kind of vibe.
Do you think it's because Carolyn wants to watch Danielle? Because, like, knowing that she's heard that Brittany didn't say specifically that it was her, but like alluded that Danielle was the one that said that she said her name. Maybe she's like, I don't want Danielle talking to anybody alone without me there. So maybe it's to keep eyes on her.
Possibly.
So do you say rock, paper, scissors, rock, or scissors, paper, rock? Because I thought there was only one way, and it seems that there's multiple ways to say this.
No, there's only one way.
Which
It might
is?
be rock, paper, scissors.
Agreed!
The name of the game.
Rock, paper, scissors. Like,
Yeah.
starts with the rock. But yeah, not everybody said rock, paper, scissors. Somebody said, wait, paper, rock, scissors. And I was like, wild. Wow. Did you know that Dylan was a rock, paper, scissor champion?
No, did not know.
Do you know the strategy behind rock, paper, scissors?
Pick rock every single time.
Paper beats rock? What do you mean? Rock, or paper beats rock every time?
I thought you meant like there's a strategy to win like every game, and my strategy is just to pick rock. That's all I.
Really?
Yeah, just pick rock. Just whatever happens, just always pick rock until somebody figures out that you always pick rock, and then pick scissors once.
Fair, but then if they figured, for you to pick to counter their paper for your rock, I got it. Yeah. I really would have liked to see that competition. Have you watched The Genius before?
No.
So it's a Korean game show. I think there's also a Dutch version was the original, and they have these death matches. Like the actual game is very difficult, very hard. It's all these different like competitions and different things that they play each round, and then there's a death match. And sometimes the death matches have been rock, paper, scissors, but it's like intense. It's like you're like hearts racing, and you're just like, oh my god, are they gonna go out on paper? Like yeah, the most intense viewing of rock, paper, scissors I've ever seen. But so the other two groups do play that to see who's going to get the shield. So Chriselle ends up getting the shield, and then also our champion Dylan. So Carolyn, Dylan, and Chriselle are the shield holders. I think it's good for Dylan. Dylan would have been somebody that I might be considering killing. I know that Rob thinks he has a lot of influence on him, but depending on how he feels about what Derek has been saying, he could be somebody to take out that would just exonerate Danielle because they're such good friends, exonerate Rob, and take away a little bit of Derek's numbers. So it's good that he got a shield. Anybody else you think she got a shield?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah. Do you care about any of these questions? I didn't understand when it said how many players are left in the game. What did they just have to count how many people, or was it not including the traitors? Or
I guess they just had everybody, like how many people have been eliminated, and then
wouldn't they just count who's in the groups?
I guess so. Yeah.
Anyways, how many letters are in Alan's surname? Carolyn talks to Gabby, and Gabby also tells Carolyn, I think this is after the challenge, that Danielle has said her name. We haven't even seen that, I don't think. And so Carolyn's like, we're done. She's done with Danielle. And rightfully so. I think that Danielle made a big mistake trying to come for Carolyn instead of working with her.
100%.
Oh no, they're still in the game. They're walking on the grass there. So they do manage to get enough gunpowder in just the nick of time to blow up the statue. Do you think that this was an honest win?
I thought they were going to win regardless. It felt like they took so long getting just the shields that it didn't matter how much they filled up those buckets. They were just going to hand over that $30,000. Like people are saying, it was super easy questions. There was no there was lines in the barrel, but I didn't know what the lines meant at a certain point. So I was just like, I feel like this was all just like a mirage here. It's just an illusion. They were going to hand over the 30,000, and they just wanted the content of everybody like kind of running at the very end. I just didn't. I thought it was just whatever. I thought this was fine. It was all right.
Being a rock, paper, scissors champion seems fake. It's not. I actually believe him. Look at all the things that are in the Olympics. Okay, I do want to know how many men are over 6 feet that are left in the game. Maybe, I guess, Ivar. Maybe Dylan. Maybe. How many they said? They said 5.
I think so.
Anyways, but we didn't get the right answer, so we will never know, Chris. We're going to be left in the dust. Yes, imagine if the statue revealed a clue or something. That would be kind of interesting, so that maybe then the traitors would not want to have the statue. But then that does become a little bit more like the mole. But Joanne Ford in the comp. I actually didn't mind the comp.
It was all right.
It allowed me to breathe a little bit because I was just so anxious.
It was the weakest part of the episode for this week, and it was because of how much like craziness that was happening around it.
So much craziness. So Chriselle tells Rob and Danielle that she heard his name and Wes, and Danielle is so quiet because right before that, oh shit, I'm just like skipping to the end of like the next page. Okay, let me rewind. So they do chop down the big traitor. They get the $30,000. The 3 shields were released from the crates. Alan lets people know this. Nobody wants to say who received the shields, which is a good thing because it allows more people to have safety because they don't know who actually has it. In the girls' car, Carolyn's still pissed because they're talking about all this girl power and, you know, Danielle is not being all girl power with her. And then they get back to the manor and Wes tells Dolores that Sandoval is saying her name. And then I just wrote down, why is he eating like that?
It's so weird. He like went from the buffet table, took 3 steps to get to the table, and then doesn't sit down. Like, you know what it reminds me of though? Now that I'm like thinking about it, it reminds me of like one of those, like a kid at like a pool party or like at a family reunion or something, and they're like playing with the other kids, but the mom is like insistent that he eat something. So he runs in and starts just eating whatever, like super as quick as possible. So he doesn't miss anything from like, so I feel like maybe that's what he's doing. He's like, I'm going to eat so I don't miss any of the conversations. I got to hurry and get this down and then run on. Like, I don't know, but that's what I kind of got.
You know what? Maybe it's
that's a perfect comparison. Thank you, HFG.
Maybe it's because, like, I agree that he doesn't want to miss anything, and he's probably not allowed to eat on camera. You know what I mean? Like you don't see in most reality shows people having food and dinner. It's loud. It's hard to edit around. And so he probably can't go and have conversations with people until he's finished eating. And so kind of like you're saying, he just wants to shovel it all in quickly so that he can like get back to the game. Yeah. But he's just so awkward.
And it was all ham. It looked like he was just eating like forkfuls of just ham. Just like...
We also had Bob Harper mention his eating earlier on. So maybe this is an ongoing thing and this is the first sighting that we've seen of his eating habits.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah.
Hi, Danica. I'm sorry that you're sick today, but happy that you can listen to us talk about this episode. Sad that Wes is gone. Bad move on Derek's part not to tell Brittany. Dumb move on Wes for being aggressive and arrogant. Works on the challenge, doesn't work on the traitors. Sorry, Wes. Derek talks to Ivar. Okay, so how Derek was approaching Ivar was so cryptic, and Ivar was not picking up what he was putting down. Like he had no idea what he was talking about at all.
And that's why I don't think when you said you would think like you put 2 and 2 together. Ivar's just in a different world. He's thinking. I truly believe. I don't know what he signed up for. What he thought he was signed up for. He was just like, I don't know. I don't know what this man is doing here. He's just like walking around and having free drinks and food and then maybe doing a challenge here or there for light exercise. Like, I don't know I just don't get it. I don't get why he's here.
I don't either. I think they were hoping to have the John effect because John was funny. Everybody loved him and British.
Exact opposite.
Yeah. Someone did mention this. He's there to pour tea for people, says Brittany. Rob tells Wes the name Wes to Gabby and Tom. Carolyn tells Dolores about Danielle. Wes tells Ivar, Brittany and Sam that Derek plans to go for Rob. And so Brittany's now sus of Wes because Derek has not been telling her these type of things. They're supposed to be number 1, number 2. And so she goes and tells Derek. And so now Derek is sus of Brittany because Brittany seemingly is standing up for Rob. It's like, no, you're just not being fully transparent with her and you're being sketch. And so she thinks she's standing up to you, being like, Wes is throwing you under the bus here. Wes is being sus, but like, no, you're working with Wes more than you're working with Brittany. And now you're calling Brittany out for not being a better ally to you.
I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, that did sink Wes more going into it when he's like, no, I'm not. Everybody's talking about it. And I'm not talking about it. 2 minutes later, we gotta vote Rob, guys. We gotta vote Rob. It's like, stop. What are you doing? Like, what is the? I just hate. I hate all the moves that happen this. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, but it is what it is.
So Derek tells Danielle that I hope you support me in the vote. And we see Danielle really contemplating what she's going to do. The fact that like this might be her opportunity to go and take out Rob. But if like Rob doesn't go, like it's going to look really bad against her. And as much as I think that she wants Rob out of the game, I think it would be bad for her to do it right now, especially if he doesn't go home. Like I thought that she should have been thinking of another plan instead of hopping onto this one personally. Like I think it would have been better for her to I don't know. I just didn't think that it was the right time for her to jump ship, especially since they just made that pact being like, hey, we're going to be working together now. And as soon as this opportunity comes up to take out Rob, like you are very much considering jumping on it. I was like, if you want influence, right? You want people to believe and trust in you, and you're trying to make it up to Carolyn here. I just felt as though she wasn't doing all the things that she said that she's going to do, and it's just not going to help her later down the road.
No, it won't.
Like just having Derek in your corner, but everybody else is like, she's kind of sketchy.
Yeah. All the besides Rob at this moment, but there's a lot of I know we're talking a lot about Rob like being missized and everything, but he really did dodge a bullet, jumping ahead a little bit, and it's just only going to get louder and louder to where if you get rid of so many faithfuls, there is going to be a point where people are just going to be like, wow, might as well just vote this guy out, you know? I don't know. It's just I don't know.
So once Chriselle leaves, Rob asks Danielle, do you think that's true? She did not deny it. She says, I heard Wes. I'm like, it didn't show whether or not Rob believed what she's saying, but from what I was looking at when she said that, I was like, Danielle, like you made it look to me like you were withholding information from him, and it looks sketchy as F. But I don't know if it's because I had all the information. What do you think?
I think it could have been the information. It could have been the editing because they could have held on her holding an answer. But I did find it like if that was how long she took, that was suspicious. If I'm Rob, I'm like, she's writing my name down. She's throwing me under the bus.
I thought she looked like she was lying for sure. All right, the music in the beginning of this round table was so dramatic. Derek is excited by this round table that's going to happen, with like their faces like coming up and around the circle. Like they really were building up this round table moment. I was so sick at this point with nerves about how it was all going to go down because there was so many things. Like, is it going to be Danielle here? Like, is Carolyn going to be able to get some numbers again? Is it going to be Wes? Is it going to be Boston Rob? Like, who is going to be going out? I was very nervous. We mentioned it already before, but Dolores starts and is like, Tom, like, you know, you've got something to say, go for it. And all that really came out of it was Dolores saying, like, you know what, Tom, I think that you're just a bad faithful. Which is true. He's a bad 100%. Faithful. He's distracting. He comes up with theories that is not useful. People have to kind of get him out of the room in order to have a real conversation. He's kind of a bad faithful. Do you think he's going to get murdered soon? Or is he just going to go to the end?
Tom? No, he's not getting murdered. There's no way he's getting murdered. He makes so much chaos and people are so unnerved by him that they're probably going to vote him out sooner rather than later. If they get desperate enough, they'll vote him out themselves. But the traitors don't need to do anything, I feel.
I know, but people be like, what? Why Tom? It would cause confusion for sure. So Derek doesn't think that they should be wasting any more time with this Tom Dolores nonsense. So he lays out his case. And I thought he did a great job. Like, I thought his case was solid. I thought that if it was in a court of law, I think it would have been very valid, these points. But he doesn't recognize emotion. He even says later, for his final thoughts, that you need to separate emotions from objectivity. And yeah, maybe you, but these people are going to be voting emotionally. They're going to be using that as their way that they detect on who they're voting out here. Anytime you get like a witness account of something, it's actually, is it something that's reliable, because their emotions come into play, their perspectives, their life history comes into play with how they see a certain scene. And so you can't take that away from them. You can't tell someone to be objective without them removing themselves completely from the situation. So I thought he laid out a good case if he was doing it with people that weren't emotional and that were maybe just game bots or were, detectives or lawyers or whatever. But these people are going to be playing with themselves and their hearts and how they feel about something. And he didn't recognize that.
No.
I thought Rob's rebuttal was really good. Some people say that he didn't do a great job. I thought he did a really good job.
I think it came off a little too confident. I know that that's his style and stuff, but if you are worried about the Traitors, I don't think you are that open and that like succinct with your arguments. That's just my thought process. If I see somebody being like, I don't want to say this to the Traitors because I know they're in here, but Ivar's here, and it's like, okay, dude, you're playing this up. I know you're a traitor, my guy. Like, you're over here being like, oh, it could be me. It could be Danielle. It could be Carolyn. It could be, I mean, hey, who knows?
Is that your Boston accent?
That's the best one I got tonight.
It's good. But he does say, I heard your name, Danielle, Carolyn, and Dolores, and they all came from Wes. Now, I do think that how he does like the whole turn it on, and it was you. It's similar to how he did it with Bob the Drag Queen. And so that's probably maybe why people believed him and wanted to side with him for this. But I agree it was a little bit heavy-handed, but I thought that him saying like, why are both me and Ivar still here? I thought that was like an interesting point that people would be like, yeah, that's true. And oh, that would make sense that people would be trying to set him up. And like, yeah, absolutely. If he is the traitor hunter, they want to keep him in the game to make people think that it's him. And so I think he had a pretty strong argument, in my opinion. But I agree some of it was a bit heavy-handed.
I do think that it was like he had some really good points. And I think Derek kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit. Like it got kind of convoluted in some areas that I felt like it was hard. Whereas like Rob, I felt was very like people could follow it. And I do agree with HVH here that if Wes just did not say, whoever votes for me, I'll keep my eye on you. If he just doesn't say that, I feel like people are like, okay, we'll vote for Rob here. And if it's not, like, I don't necessarily think it, but if we don't vote here, then we'll just vote Wes at the next one or something. I feel like I truly believe that people were on the fence. Derek says something, Wes talks and then says, I'm sorry, I'll do better. And I feel like there's a point where they're like, okay, we'll vote for Rob here. It seems like they haven't. But once Wes says, I'm going to keep my eye on you, it's like, just shut the hell up, my guy. Like, just let it go. Like, keep that in your brain. You let the intrusive thoughts come out. And it's just like, and that's, I think, what really mixed to where it was like the 2 vote difference. I really do think that those 2 vote difference, it would have been different.
Well, Gabby was annoyed that Wes wants like blind loyalty just with numbers and just to follow along with him. And Chriselle finds that Wes is aggressive in his tactics of how he approaches her. And so Wes does ask if he says that he'll dial back his aggressiveness. And that's when he says he's looking at anybody that's voting for him. And I'm like, oh, don't say it. I agree. I think that was the nail in his coffin here. And it was Boston Rob's saving grace. But then, he thought it was a foregone conclusion because then, hold up. Carolyn needs to say, Danielle, I found that you've been saying my name. They have a bit of a screaming match back and forth. One thing that I thought was interesting, though, well, actually, no, that was in the turret, but that's when Derek says the emotions versus objectivity with his final thoughts. I was nervous for Rob still because I do think that Derek had a stronger argument. I do think that Wes wasn't really going to be great with the women because they're just not going to be down with having that macho, like, kind of bullying mentality. Like, they're just not going to be with it. Like, they just don't like that. And so Rob is even uncertain with how this roundtable is going to go. And then with the extreme match with Carolyn and Danielle, that was 2 wasted votes. Kind of. Well, I guess, Carolyn's was a wasted vote.
Carolyn's was a wasted vote, and yeah. It was just weird. It was just a weird thing all around, but I think that Wes just did himself in. He spoke, I think, too quickly on the Nikki thing. I think that was prideful for him to be like, I'm just going to go out on a limb and nobody suspects her, so I'm going to say that she's a traitor, and that Boston Rob was able to use that against him in this vote. He says he brought up that he's the winningest player at the table because he's won 3 challenges, and everybody else, if they played, has only won like once or so. And then it's just like, dude, just dial it back. Like, he could have kind of gotten a little bit more information. I think he really did like shoot himself in the foot here. And Derek, I thought, said it right when he was talking to Brittany at the end. He's like, Wes did himself in. You know, he was a lost cause at a certain point, and it's whatever at this point. So
voting for Wes was Dylan, Ivar, Sam. Who else we got here? Brittany, Chriselle, and Sierra. Voting for Rob was Wes. Dolores voted for Tom, which was another wasted vote. I'm like, Dolores, it's not Tom, but you can't have it all. Derek votes for Rob. Tom votes for Rob, which I thought was interesting. Danielle votes for Rob. Gabby votes for Rob. So there was a few surprise Rob votes there that, like, I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure that Gabby was going to do that but she does say that she felt that Derek's argument was stronger, which is true. And Danielle, though, she said that she needs to get it right, and she ended up being wrong here with who she felt was going to get the votes, and so she voted incorrectly. Now, I knew that Sierra was going to vote for Wes when she, like, I wrote down, Sierra does not like threats, and she even said it, I think, like, I don't like feeling threatened, I don't like feeling pushed into something, and I was like, didn't expect her to like that. And so
no.
Wes is banished, and he needs to tell everybody that he is one of the greatest who's ever played these games like this. But I'm a faithful, and fuck all you guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong in a sense, but the way he played the game, and when you named out everybody, it was like, besides Rob and Brittany, it's like those other 4 were basically people who have not played reality TV. So him, I think, playing more into the game style instead of learning these people and working with them, that was what really helped push them into, I don't like this guy's way of playing the game. I don't like this, that he pushes for votes or something. So he would have, I think, collected better with honey than vinegar, which is how he was playing.
Icona says that's why bird votes are a detriment. They could have gotten Rob out if people wasn't so petty.
Yeah.
So Rob is, I said, yikes, what a mess. Rob is thanking people for keeping him, for believing in him. Rob did manage to get by without the help of the traitors, which is true because none of them were helpful for him this time around. Brittany wants to yell at Derek, which I thought was really funny, how she, like, summons him up. Can you come with me so I can yell at you?
Yeah.
Like, please yell at him. Though Derek does, so now that Brittany's talking to Derek is now sus of Brittany. Does he tell her then? I think he did, yeah. He tells her that now, like, he's sus of her. And I'm like, Derek, you can't lose Brittany, even if she's wrong with her, because she said that she doesn't think that Rob is a traitor. Even if she's wrong there, you can't lose her for her
Yeah.
now thinking that, because she knows that she's a faithful. And so now
Right.
if you're saying that you think that she's a traitor, like she's not going to want to trust and work with you anymore, because she's going to be thinking that you're being nefarious, you're being like sketchy, and he needs that number for influence. And I think he might have lost her. But Derek does tell Dylan not to trust Brittany anymore, and also that if he does get murdered, and Rob will say that he's being framed, which we know that's probably going to happen. Do you think that Derek's gonna get murdered, or is there somebody else that's better?
I don't think Derek's gonna get murdered. I think that one, Danielle won't want to do it, and I think that with how crazy everything is, I could see them going a different route, especially with Wes being voted out. A guy in the cages. I don't know how much they're going to put into this whole thing about the cages thing, but everybody keeps bringing it up. And if Derek gets murdered, Rob would be the only guy that came in on the cages who is possibly suspected to be a traitor. It would be a great move on Rob's part, but I just don't think Danielle's going to want to push for it. I don't know if they need a 2-1 majority or how this is playing out, but I don't know. I think they're going to go a safer route for a for the murder, in my opinion. That's what I think. But I could also see Rob being like, let's just brazen it out. I'll talk myself out of it and see how far I get, kind of vibe too.
Well, and maybe Danielle will give him up to try to get back in his good books, since she just voted for him.
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe. Because it will look sketch if Derek does go out, and so she might be like, well, you might just burn your own bridge or make your own bed. All right, so Brittany says to Danielle, this game sucks. Then we get to the turret. Carolyn is not going to be the quiet. This is the worst group of traitors ever. They get to the turret. They unveil their heads, and they just stand there in awkward silence for too long. Didn't we agree to not go for each other, says Rob. Then Danielle says, well, like, I was feeling suspect of you once you went after Bob the drag queen. Rob obviously lays out again about the fact that, like, hey, like, he basically said my name, like, he put me up for, he marked my death certificate, and he's like, Danielle, you have to know that that's him coming for me. You know that. And so I think that she realizes, like, okay, I can't really use that as an excuse anymore. Like, yeah, it's valid. She would want to do the same thing. She did it with Jeremy. Like, anybody that was saying her name or alluding to her being a traitor, she had gone. So she had to understand that. And then the fighting with Carolyn and Danielle, she's like, she says, like, you did bring Brittany's name up, and he's like, you brought her up to kill her, and Carolyn's like, I said that in the turret. You want, like, to bring up all the turret conversations, and like they're back and forth. Like, Danielle was not really budging, but neither was Carolyn. And when Carolyn was like, but we just have to go after Danielle, because Rob was like, I don't know what to do. We just have to go after Danielle. And Danielle started, you can see the panic behind her eyes. And she's like, well, I'll just have to bring it. I'll just have to fight back. And I think that she was trying to scare Carolyn, being like, she's like, well, what do you have on me? And she's like, I'm telling you, like, whatever. I have stuff on you. I can say stuff. I don't think she has anything.
No,
and I think she's just trying to, like, spook Carolyn. And I don't think it worked.
No, not at all.
Drew's Corpor says it all. What a mess. Yeah, it is what a mess these traitors are. So Carolyn says, you have nothing on me. Rob is shocked, but like, he's just back and forth with his tennis match of like, what is going on here? This is a disaster, he says. And that is the end of the episode. We do not know who is going to be murdered. We do learn that there's going to be a face-to-face murder. I don't know how that's going to go down. So yeah, I wonder if that's like, yeah, face-to-face murder. That was surprising. Do you have any idea of how that's going to play out? And any final things you want to say about the episode? I know that you got to leave me.
I guess they would meet somewhere like closer to the turn or something, or like somebody would like knock on the door and like walk in and say it. I don't know. Now I'm thinking of like the circle, and that's not gonna work out. But I don't know. It's gonna get messy. I think that somebody said that. I think somebody said that they could go for Ivar and kind of play off what Rob said about like nobody's gonna kill Ivar or whatever. He's a faithful through and through. It's like all you have to murder him at some point. So why not just do it now? It's not gonna hurt anybody or whatever, and it's like low hanging fruit. Somebody also said that it should be. It would. Thomas says that they think that the vote should be unanimous, or the vote is unanimous. And if it's too jumbled up, they could just say, let's just go for Ivar. He doesn't have any connections. He doesn't have any influence. Nobody's going to worry if he's here or not. And then we could just move on from tonight, you know?
So one thing that they could have,
or Sam, because whoever voted for Rob's going to want to vote somebody out. So I don't know if either one of those guys voted for him. So
one thing that they did in the Traitors Canada, they did a face-to-face vote where one of the traitors would have to shake the hand of the person that they wanted to murder and have them say a certain phrase. And so the phrase that they had was, "I trust you." And so they had to shake the hand. The person that's to be murdered says, "I trust you." And then they were gone. So not obviously them, but like they didn't show up at breakfast. So it didn't work in the same timing wise because they knew this before they had to do it before midnight. So the timing of this doesn't work, but that's how they dealt with it, was a handshake and a phrase.
That could be it.
And if that's the case, I could see Rob just going straight for Derek then and just being like, get him to say whatever phrase it is. And like, we're making a deal with the devil, literally. And Derek's done. I could see that happening, but I don't know how they're actually going to do it, just with the timing of it, because they would have learned about it the episode before, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Unless they don't have any, or unless they just don't have a murder, and so everybody's like, oh, nobody got murdered, and they'll be like, oh, did somebody get murdered that had a shield? And like they might play that angle, and then someone gets murdered later on, you know?
Yeah.
And then maybe the challenge is like, what are those murder challenges? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. Any final thoughts for this episode?
It was good. It gave me a headache towards the end, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. I also agree with V here that they could go for Gabby, and it could just, she voted for Rob, been inconsistent, unpredictable. So Bachelorette, and she does have some influence too. So, I mean, you could always just go for that.
She kind of has her finger on the pulse because she didn't think it was Nikki, and she doesn't seem to be swayed necessarily with the wrong votes. So yeah, it could be Gabby because she's kind of strong-minded.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yes, this was a good episode. Thanks, Drew, for being here and hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I love talking about Traitors. So I don't talk about it with anybody else. So it's always great to be able to talk about it.
Yay! And thanks everybody in the chat for hanging out with us as well. Do you have anything going on that you want to tell us about with your channel?
Not anything too much. Just saying, All Stars Rivals, happy to be watching it, happy to be covering it, and February should be dropping the first part, possibly the second part as well, of the CT doc soon, mid-February, hopefully, mid to late February. Definitely going to be on Patreon first and then be dropping it on my channel. But other than that, not too much. Everything else is happening on Patreon as I work on the CT stuff.
Sweet. Can't wait. Guess we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.
Subscribe.